Greetings and salutations. This is Dharma Mitra Jeff Stefani coming to you live in the now. I may not be live when you're watching it, but I guarantee it'll be in the now. And I'm here to try to talk about something very briefly, which is what my blog is about, how to become a Bodhisattva. And I use Buddhist terminology because Buddhism is the path that I followed. Although with teachers like Eckhart Tolle and Abhaya Shante, who also followed a Buddhist path, although now is just a spiritual teacher and doesn't subscribe to any particular school of awakening. What an awakening is the cessation of the ego. And when I say ego, I don't mean it in a Freudian sense. I mean it in a more popular spiritual sense, as in a separate self. There's me and there's you. There's this table and there's this computer. There's this hand and then there's this microphone. The Heart Sutra, which is one of the most profound writings, which if you read it may sound like gibberish until you have the esoteric experience of it, you know. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. All things are emptiness. Emptiness is all things. Basically, I just want to mention my favorite quote, which described it to me perfectly, by Suzuki Roshi, when he said, "Strictly speaking, there are no such thing as enlightened beings, only enlightened experiences." Pardon me. And to anybody that has awoken to this non-dual awakening, or had stream entry, or the rising of bodhicitta, or prajna, or wisdom, or insight, or vipassana, had the actual experience, not just studied those words or conceptualized them, but has experienced them. Sorry, my eyes are squinting because my light is not quite right. That is the most perfect way of saying it. Although not everybody that awakens stays awake. And that's why I like the Buddhist terminology, where there's these 8 various stages of stream entry until you awake and never identify back with any sense of self. Abhaya Shante calls it non-abiding awakening, where you awaken but you don't abide there for ever. As he says, it may last days, weeks, months, years. Mine happened over a year ago, and the direct experience of it was profound for about 6 months, and then still extremely profound. It's entirely altered my relationship with the world, but it doesn't mean that I don't slip back into Dharma Mitra Jeff Stefani, me having a sense, having the navigation of an egoic being. But once this arises, everything changes. When you awaken like I said, the Heart Sutra says it best. You see the emptiness of all five skandhas. Words are breaking down now because it's an experience. But just to try to describe the experience a little bit, and it gets confusing when I use I, because there is no I. The consciousness arises that there is no I, and that what has been perceived as I is the fluctuation of various events. And in Buddhism we call that the five skandhas, or heaps, form, mind, object of the mind, so on and so forth. But that's about it. I wanted to keep this as short as possible. And if anybody has any dialogue or anything they wish to discuss, please just say so. This is the essence of the Dharma, of all spiritual practices, non-dual awakening. And it's happening to more and more people out there. And then it goes away to some extent, or starts to fade. And that shows us what we need to work on in order to perpetuate it to abiding in awakening, as opposed to non-abiding awakening, as Abhayashante uses as a term, which I find very apropos. So on that note, I'm going to leave it at that, because this light is really bad and my mouth is really dry, and it's just not a very good picture. Not that it's vanity, it's just from I used to do video production, and it's really horrible for me to see such poor quality video. But strictly speaking, this is the most elemental statement that I can say. Strictly speaking, there are no enlightened beings. There are only enlightened experiences. Because once you awaken, once enlightenment or satori happens, you cease to be a being. You experience reality. So there are no enlightened beings. Upon enlightenment, the being ceases. There's plenty of unenlightened beings, but there's no enlightened beings. Although there are a growing number of enlightened experiences with various degrees of tether, various attachments still to the egoic sense. And on that note, man, my mouth is dry. I love you. And I'm going to try, I'm not going to try. I've had some health problems, but I'm back on the blogging, and I'm back here to try to teach people, which is a whole other story I'll talk about next time. If there is no beings, then what is a bodhisattva? Why does a bodhisattva strive to help other beings once they have the experience of knowing there are no beings? It's a bit of a paradox. An enlightened being sees no reason, although sees no reason not to at the same time. And I think there might be some sentimentality, at least in my own case. And of course, the degree that we're still tethered to our egoic sense, self, or non-abiding self, that self has compassion for other beings that are suffering. And having had this experience, which instantly nullified every single problem in my awareness, in my experience, in my perception, I want to help others attain it too, because it's very doable. and you can do it too. And we need to quit thinking about awakening only for lamas or forest monks in Thailand or whatever. There's plenty of videos around here about my experience. But on that note, I bid you farewell. Namo Nama. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dhammaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Nama. Om Ahong. Thank you.